Hey everybody, Jeremy Siskind here. I am the author of Playing Solo Jazz Piano. Woo, get it from my website, jeremysiskind.com. I'll send you a signed copy. This is my second in a three-part series on modal jazz piano playing. If you haven't watched the first part, it's about modal voicings, and I'd probably recommend that you watch that one first. It's really good TV. I say something really dumb at the end, so make sure you stick around all the way until the end. This one is about 5 tips for modal comping. So once you have those modal voicings down, oh, that camera angle's terrible, what can you do with them? So just to give a little quick refresher, we talked about 3 voicings. The first is your so what voicing. And I'm playing these up and down the scale because these voicings are just a set of intervals that can be put anywhere in the scale, and that is essential to understand for this video. The second is the chorsal voicing. Good, and I'm gonna do this in C minor actually, so you know I'm not cheating. I'm just playing random white keys. I am a real professional, I promise. And then the last one, which I was not a professional about in the last video, was your pentatonic voicings. So I'll give you a little comping demonstration, and then we'll go through kind of 5 tips to make your modal comping really sound great. So here we go. So there's your aggressive comping for the day. And so what we're going to be talking about here is going to be kind of for long modal chord vamps, more in the style of John Coltrane and McCoy's Heiner than anybody else. I think there's kind of another art to comping in more of a Herbie style when he's playing behind Wayne Shorter. So I think some of these things apply, but we can't do everything here. So we're going to really talk about that kind of McCoy, Coltrane, quintet style. So the first thing is to think melodically. Your top note here is a melody, and it's going to act kind of as a counter melody to whatever the soloist is playing. And that's really how you're going to form your voicings. It's not really from the bottom up, it's from the top down. So, if you're thinking... So you're going to harmonize that. And now you'll notice I'm mixing voicings depending on kind of what I'm doing. So I started out with chordal voicings, 6 notes, fourths, and then I noticed that's all in the minor pentatonic, so I switched to those pentatonic voicings. So it's not so much a matter that you have to do one or the other. Could I have done all chordal voicings? Maybe. It doesn't fit as well. And I could do that with so what voicing as well. Which is it's just a different sound. It sounds always a little fuzzy to me, whereas the other ones have more of a sharp point. I'll give you another example. What if the melody is... So I'm harmonizing that melody. And notice... I have a fourth voicing, but it's only 5 notes because I would start to get pretty low. If I went all the way down below C3 here. So your range is going to affect things, and you can make these sorts of edits and changes to your voicings on the fly. But even if it's not a complicated melody, these voicings always form some kind of a melody. So don't just stay on that same voicing the whole time. Because if your chord is staying in the same place, you need to create this sense of movement and momentum, okay? The second thing is that, again, because chords might be static, modal playing is so much more about energy and sound. I almost never use pedal myself when comping on a medium or up-tempo tune, and I certainly don't let my students do that. But for modal voicings, you can use a little bit of pedal to create some more sound. And I wrote this low fifth here. I wrote it in D because I was thinking about D Dorian. This is such an aspect of McCoy Tyner's playing, and it's almost like he's playing drums, right? And that's the bass drum, or that's the crash cymbal that he's hitting when you come to kind of a big arrival point. So you can really think of yourself as a drummer. And you're creating this energy, right? Coltrane's sound was famously Coltrane's style was famously compared to a wall of sound. And certainly he played that way, but McCoy also played that way. And certainly Elvin Jones also played that way, just creating this incredibly dense soundscape. So, whereas other styles, I say, well, only comp short, or I say, don't use pedal. Here, you can have a lot of long comps. You can use some pedal. You can use that lower register. You can, really lean into those low fifths, and it's still going to be a really good sound. Which brings me to point number 3, which is phrasing. So, even if you're playing a piece that maybe is just C Dorian for however long anybody wants to solo. When you listen to the great musicians, they're still thinking in 2, 4, 8 bar phrases. And you might have noticed about my comping there that I'm using a lot of repetition within 2 or 4 measure phrases. And when I'm playing those low Cs, it's not at random points at all. It's with those 2, 4, and 8 measure phrases. So again, you need to provide a sense of organization when the chords are static, because you don't have a harmonic context to create organization for you. So if you're going to use that low fifth, you want to come back to it every 2 or 4 bars, or maybe every 8 bars. So it's not just kind of like hitting it whenever. I wrote down kind of a classic McCoy comping rhythm, which is. Too repetitive. You could put some variations in there, but this is kind of a nice place to start if you're looking for somewhere to start with your kind of comping patterns and your rhythm. But I just want to play a little bit for you again, and I want you guys to notice the 2, 4, and 8 measure rhythm. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So things are kind of still happening in these phrases, and they could be a little bit longer, they could be a little bit shorter, but they're working always in these kind of predictable, symmetrical phrase patterns. I should mention, before I go on, that it doesn't always have to be this really loud, thick comping. Modal comping can be. Light and staccato, and especially at beginnings of solos, you might hear McCoy or Herbie or Chick in particular, playing some really light comping. So it doesn't always have to be that, but that's kind of the most stereotypical McCoy Tyner style comping. Number 4 is a nice simple one, but maybe one that you'll enjoy, which is that you can use grace notes with these comps to give it a little bit more personality. For me, it's usually my second finger in my right hand leading to my third finger in my right hand. But hey, I'd encourage you to experiment whatever possibilities are comfortable for you. But, so if I'm playing this voicing, I might go. Could be this third finger to this index finger, but those give a little bit of personality, particularly maybe at just a mid-tempo. It's just kind of nice to give a little bit of inflection to the chords. And then number 5 is side steps. So side steps are so important to all of modal music because we don't really use dominant chords in the same way in modal music. And so side steps often kind of take the place of dominant chords. If you don't know what a side step means kind of displacing a note or a mode or a chord or a voicing, displacing anything by a half step and then resolving back in. So if we're in C minor, we're most likely going to sidestep up to D flat. It is possible to sidestep down, but I don't hear that nearly as much in modal music as sidestepping up. And it makes sense because the sidestep is also a tritone sub of the 5 chord, right? So in C minor, the tritone sub would be G. So the tritone sub of that would be, did I say that wrong? In C minor, the 5 chord would be G. So the tritone sub of that would be D flat. So this D flat is kind of serving two purposes. It's the sidestep, and it's kind of also the tritone sub, even though we're going to stay with kind of a minor sound, which isn't usually typical of tritone subs. So instead of, if I'm comping in C minor in a tonal way, I'm going to go up to G7 and come back to C minor, and that's going to be how I create little pockets of tension. Instead, in modal comping, I'm going to use many more side steps. So I'm going to be going up a half step to D flat minor. And I have the word phrasing here because, again, we want to do this in 4 or 8 measure phrases. As a start, for my students, I have them in the 4th measure of a 4-bar phrase, always doing the side step right there, just to practice getting in this symmetrical phrasing mode. So if I'm going C minor, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. So I went up, I took notes from D flat minor, and then resolved back. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3. You have to be really good at your voicings, right? You have to, especially starting in an easy key like C minor, a half step up is going to be C sharp or D flat minor, and that's not as easy of a voicing to find. But I would start there. I would start with just 4 measure phrases. And then, from there, you can do it in more subtle ways or less subtle ways. So, a more subtle way would be just doing a quick side step. So you can hear I'm going up to D flat and then back to C. A less subtle way might be in an 8 or 16 bar phrase. You could really pound out that side step at a crucial or really tense moment. So much of modal music is about creating tension and release through means other than dominant to tonic chords. And side steps are a great way to create that tension and release. So if I'm comping and someone's playing this killer solo, stab add them with that side step to create this feeling of overall tension. All right, everybody. So stay tuned for the third of this 3-part series, which is going to be some tips for improvising on a long modal vamp. And just as a reminder, go buy this book. Do something nice for yourself. I think you deserve it. I will send you a beautifully signed copy if you order from me at jeremysiskin.com. I'll see you later.